Well, g'day members. Time for me to give a second report back on Qantas wage discussions that were undertaken yesterday, but before I get into that, I'll probably just explain briefly something that occurred a little bit earlier, which was with regards to the A330 work, which is going to be shifted to Jetstar. Most of you would have seen the email from our office that explained that a couple of union officials were going to exercise right of entry privileges to sift through some of the Qantas documents and computer files to determine whether a breach of our wage agreement occurred by not retaining these existing job functions. It was about 9:30 that we rocked up to the Qantas offices at QCA, and we were firstly attempting to tackle Sue Bussell up in her office there on the third floor. Sue actually met us out the front, and we were quite surprised actually. She invited us up to her office for discussions, and to cut a long story short, she's essentially said, look, we don't have to go through this rigmarole of the formal right of entry stuff. Why don't you just ask us for what you are seeking, and we will most likely hand those documents across. So what we've done is Gary Norris, our Senior Industrial Officer, has now gone off, and he's drawing up a list as we speak that'll be seeking certain documents that we say may lead to evidence that Qantas have not complied with the terms of the existing EBA. So members, after the dramas of the right of entry, we then headed over to Alexandria where the EA meeting was taking place, and first cap off the rank was Qantas giving us a list of their demands for the discussions, and I'm going to read to you some of them, and if you feel like giving us some feedback, please feel free to do so. Just email the office. Right, first thing that they were seeking is some integration of Part 66 requirements into the wage agreement, which is probably not too dissimilar to one of our claims, so there may not be too many issues with that. Number two, the company is seeking a 4-year agreement. Number three, they would like the ability to have more flexibility with the use of casual labour in the LAME workforce. Number four, roster flexibility. Company is seeking for us to give them the right to change extended hours rosters without the need to go to a vote, and I'm thinking we probably won't be agreeing to that one. In addition, the company is seeking to introduce a 172-hour cap for the maximum hours that people in Brisbane heavy maintenance can have in their voluntary overtime bank. So if you're from Brisbane heavy maintenance, let us know how you feel about that. Number five, Qantas is seeking to standardise the flexibilities in the Brisbane heavy maintenance part of the existing agreement for those employees working in heavy maintenance in Melbourne. Number six, the 380 roster suite that's contained in your current EBA, they're seeking to have the roster suite extended for the life of the agreement, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of our members who signed up to training bonds on certain conditions would be very disappointed if the ALAA went off and agreed to extend those terms, so unlikely. Item 7's training and travelling. Firstly, they would like, and they've put this one on us before, I think for every EBA set of negotiations I can remember. I want to take away your shift penalties whilst you're on training. B is they want travel to training facilities at single time, not double time, if it's outside your normal working hours. And thirdly, they would like to introduce more use of training bonds on aircraft other than the 380. Number 8 on the list, there's it's about notification when you're sick. They currently have a clause in the agreement that says you've got to get in contact with Qantas within 8 hours of the commencement of your shift. They're seeking that to be moved to 2 hours, and we've got a bit of a problem with it for those members who are incapacitated and can't actually phone in, but it's going to be the subject of further discussion. Number 9 is they are seeking to introduce a clause into the EBA where you can cash out excess annual leave and RDOs, so we'll have more discussions about that. And finally, tail payments. They want to introduce tail payments on a daily basis, and I'm thinking that that's probably not going to go down too well with the membership. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. Okay members, just one final aspect of the day that I'd like to speak to you about, and it relates to 2 claims on Qantas's list, being casuals and tail payments. And along with those points when they raised them, Gavin Harris actually said, look, if we can get them into the new agreement, it's going to give us more ability to win contracts back, some of the customer stuff. He essentially asked us to put some trust in them. And we very quickly responded by explaining why we don't have much trust, particularly in the area of customer contracts. And we went back to the A320 Air New Zealand stuff. And it was a couple of years ago that Qantas sought from us changes to the way this aircraft was handled by reducing the number of blokes from 2 to 1, so they could reduce the contract price from $600 to $295 a transit. And it was only about 12 months after that, after we'd given them the flexibility so they could reduce the price, that they jacked it straight back up to 600 again. Of course, we lost the contract from that and it hasn't come back. Now, very disappointing when we're asked to put some trust in the airline when they do things like that to us. So that's about it for this update, guys, and I'll speak to you next time.